Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round number 3 of the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series. Sorry for the delay. It seems like we had some odd reason, having some technical difficulties. But we are back, and I see a couple of people are going in, having a great bit of fun in the chat. But joining me in the box is the one, the only, the world's slowest alien, and going to be racing in the UK. Janneman Press. Janneman, how are you doing this evening? A little bit of a delay, but all in all, we're going to see some great action.
Good evening, Stephen. Yeah, we don't know what that one was. Mike's not wanting to play along and all those funny things, but we eventually made it tonight. Silverstone. It is the GT3 Sprint Series, and very much looking forward to this one after we did some touring cars and some iRacing last night. Tonight we're back on ACC and back in the GT3 cars. And
there's interesting chats, and I'm gonna just go and get the elephant out the room because Bago is going and having a bit of a game. The likes of Johan Kleinans out on the circuit. Bago, have your time now. So there we go, just chucking it out there. At the moment, some good times being put in. Ryan Otten's in first place, Daniel Petro in second place, Nicholas Manuel in third as the grid starts making their way through. 1 minute and 28 seconds of qualifying. Bashir Jadwat, he is out in fourth place, Sanjan Pillay in fifth, sixth is Justin Lotus, Qin Duplessis in seventh, eighth is Johan Kleinans, ninth Johan van der Merwe, Leclerc Besson, Daniel De Villiers, Mahayath Musa, STSAs, Eric Kirstein, Harry Duplessis, Jean Viviers, Alan Passon, Darren Miller, along with Jean Leroux, Issam Domingo, Ronaldo Boersma, Tennis Bertha, Charles Darden, Ramona Yonka, Grant Sebastian, Tinian Kube, Hansi Mayberg, and Jaco Krobler rounding out the field. I am interested of Domingo after his last time that he had at out at Koto. He had a little bit of a rough race. Let's see if maybe the gremlin that was on his shoulders has finally leaped off.
Well, yeah, I think he's very much looking forward to a better race tonight after the race he had last week. Qualifying is almost done and dusted. We've got Mr. Ryan Ottens out in front, followed by Bashir Jadwat. In third place, Daniel Preto. So, just looking at those times, we basically have the top 10 under a second.
Yeah, no, it's going to be incredible. And also some top names coming in. Nicholas Manuel, he's going and trying to take his fight through. Daniel Petra, as you said, has got a bit of pace. I'm interested to see what Bash and Ryan Ottens are going to do. There's some unfinished business that's carried over from Kota, but it is a bit of a gloomy day out at Silverstone. It is 24 degrees track temperature, 19 degrees ambient temperature, but the clouds are in the sky. It's not too much of a sunny day there over at Silverstone, and that's going to play into a lot of these cars of how they'll be able to maintain heat in the tires and in the brakes, especially as they make their way around the circuit here at Silverstone.
Absolutely, and looking at the weather forecast, it does look overcast, Stephen, so who's predicting a little bit of rain around? Being that we are racing in the rainy UK tonight.
Are you going and calling the weatherman? Are you doing it again?
Oh, I'm looking at the weather forecast, and so far it's looking overcast, and let's see what's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. Once again, sorry for the delay.
If it rains, it's my fault.
We'll blame it on Massey. no, Mikey, no, being the optive one there. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for joining us here at Raceface. Sorry for the delay. It does seem like one of the microphones had a bit of a wander over yonder and forgetting what it's actually doing.
It was a bit distant.
It was a bit distant, and I think if it continues to be distant, my co-driver and co-commentator might learn to also make it go very distant. But
I will not be happy.
I can believe it. Silverstone, a very, very beautiful circuit. A lot of flowing corners that the guys are going to have to battle around. You and I know the circuit all too well because we've done 24 hours around it. And I've got to say, the ones that I'm a bit worried about is going not through Maggots and Beckett's, but it is leading up to the problem, and it's through Abbey hit the brakes, try get yourself all sorted out and move your way around. So through Abbey and Luffield being the main ones I'm super concerned about, not being my favorite corners in the world to deal with, and I know I expressed the same as many other drivers out there that it's not quite the ones that you want to go through. I feel that Abbey is going to be the one to keep an eye out for, especially for some great overtaking maneuvers, but at the same time the guys might land up with a few bits and pieces going wrong if they get themselves lined up on the wrong side. We do know that Ryan Ottens and Bashir Jadwat in first and second place, Daniel Demartros-Petro, Nicholas Manuel, Essie Esterhays, Justin Lotus, Sanjan Pillay, Kewan Duplessis, Johan Kleinans, Charles Darden, Jan van der Merwe, Leclerc Besson, Daniel de Villiers, Mahiath Musa, Grant Sebastian, Eric Kirstein, Kerry Duplessis, Jean Viviers, Alan Passon in 19th, 20th is Ramona Jonker, Darren Miller, Jean Leroux, Issam Domingo, Ronaldo Boersma, Tiernis Boertha, Tini Nkube, Hansi Myberg, and Jaco Krobler are ready to get the power down and claw their way through. And this is only our Pro division. We do have our Pro-Am division that's running simultaneously. So I'm super looking forward to this, and I'm wondering what's going to happen out on the circuit, considering what these guys are going to have to do, what's going to be the rabbit out of the hat, what's going to be the plan for the pit stops, because they got that one mandatory pit stop. And gentlemen, you know, in a GT3 in this circuit, tires get eaten away fast.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the guys will have to look after those tires tonight if they plan on doing the whole 55 minutes. I assume everybody's going to do the whole 55 minutes on one set of tires. But if you're going to go out and go attacking, you might, run out of tires. But I'm going to head over to you, Stephen, and leave the start of the race up to you.
All right, lined up on line, ready to go. Bashir Jadwat's going to be on the outside, which isn't going to be too great for him as they get the power down. Ryan Ottens trying to pull away as they stand on the gas. Ryan Ottens getting a fantastic start, and Bash tucking into second place. Then you've got the likes of Daniel Demartros-Petro. He's trying to get a little bit more of a run. Everyone frantically diving, finding their way through. Nicholas Manuel getting ahead of the likes of Essie Essays, who's really putting the power down. He's got Justin Lotus all over the back of him. Sanjan Pillay trying to keep up with his teammates, with Kewan Duplessis as well. But Charles Darden feeling the pressure as here comes the mighty McLaren of Johan van der Merwe, looking to side by side as they make their way through. But what a spectacular shot of GT3s showing off what they can do. You can see a couple of the drivers going to the middle of the circuit just to go a little bit more defensive to hold their position. But back out to the front as we see the gaggle right behind likes of Daniel Demartros-Petro as Nicholas Manuel's hunting to look left and right to figure out where can he get past on this little bit of a run. SESA is keeping nice and tucked in. So for the start of the race, is it going to be a triumphant charge to try and get ahead of the competition, or it's going to be focusing on more of the slow burn for this race? What's your thoughts on this, young man?
Well, as I said to you, Stephen, if you're going to go out with a bang and you're going to fight, you might run the risk to run out of tires as you go later into the race. So two different strategies, one being, try and get as far ahead as possible. The other one just hanging back a little bit and try and save those tires so that you essentially have a better car underneath you come during the latter parts of the race. But as we see making their way around, Kewan Duplessis 9th place, he's just behind Van der Merwe, and just behind him in 10th place is Darden. So at this stage, early stages in the race, the field is still very much bunched up. Out in front, Ryan Otten's only half a second ahead of Bashir Jadwat, and only 0.2 of a second behind is Daniel Demartros-Petro in 3rd position. So it's got to take a couple of laps for this race to, I'm not going to say die down, Stephen, because this is a sprint race. We know there's very much action from start to finish, and there's going to be action right up over the field, right down the field up to last place. The guys are going to battle it out, trying to make their way up the field as far as possible, with only 55 minutes to race.
I'm got to say, really excited about this. Now, I know a few crowd members are currently keeping tabs on what I say, which is going to be real interesting, because let's see who's going to run out of words first and who's going to run out of stamina, if I can put it that way, especially as the race. Yeah, no, there's a few people that are trying to count it out. And let's see how it's going to work. Oh! SES has had a problem as he's dropping down the field.
Out.
There he
Lost
is.
it. Caught him on the side screen, yeah.
So let's actually take a look. He was in a bit of a battle with one of the Hybrid Academy cars. And unfortunately, might have got a little bit sideways. Keeping to the middle of the circuit, goes outside, goes wide, and comes across, slightest of contacts on the rear right. And that twisted him around, dropping him down the order. And, oh man, right down to the bottom of the field, having to try and hunt that. So, not really what he wanted to go for.
Especially at this early part of the state or early part of the race, even if you spin out, you essentially need to wait for the whole field to come by. But for all the viewers, I had a quick chat with cameraman Tim earlier on, and I've got a couple of interesting facts about him, Stephen.
Oh, you managed to talk to Tim? I've tried it. It was on my Christmas list, and I've been told that I can score an appointment with him in 2029.
Well, did you know that he isn't machine washable? And then all his pot plants are called Steve.
At least he's got good sense of taste in names. Daniel Raceface.pro, though, has got a good sense of taste in second place at the moment, in closing down the distance on Bashir Jadwat. Now, this is going to be interesting. What's going to work out between it? The Porsche, very, very light on tires compared to the likes of the Ferrari and the Lamborghini, but doesn't have the straight line pace. It's BOP really taking a bit of a knock there. Do you think that is going to come into effect as we've seen the 992 Porsche GT3 really pull a rabbit out of the hat every single time? Looking also, we've got two cars that have done their pit stops. The Kubusson and Ninefive Musa have done their pit stops, and it looks like Kleinland's also part of it as well. Your thoughts into this? Early starts, early stops, 49 minutes of the race, and considering the guys who are doing, well, about 2 minutes a lap, except for our front runners, first, second, and third, doing 1:58 as their quickest lap time. Boy, that is incredibly quick.
Yeah, it is incredibly quick, especially with those. But doing 1:58 or 2 minute odd lap time, Stephen, on this track, it does lend itself to the early pit stops because you can get out well in front of the front running cars and essentially not making yourself a lap car. Maybe they felt like they were being held up, trying to get into some clear air, trying to get the quicker lap times in and trying to make their way up the field by doing so. But it's a strategy that doesn't always work. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But you spoke about the Porsche that Jadwat is in. This new Porsche does seem to be a very different car to the old one.
I've got to completely agree with that. Rework in the way it's done its suspension. Porsche has put a bit of work to it, so it's going to be very interesting to see how it all turns out. Remember, we do expect to see a new BOP coming out fairly soon from Kunos, and that might go and change it into its favor a little bit more. A couple of guys joining us in the chat, though, may give it a little bit more experience. Daniel Rowe, Bago Krobler, Paul Fenter, Tariq Adam, Cameron the Bastos also out there, AJ DeCock, all able to give us a bit of insight into what's going on. I would actually like to ask the teams itself, when are you planning to pit? And what's your fuel usage per lap? Don't tell me when to pit. What's your fuel usage per lap? Don't worry, I will keep it close. It will be between you and me. We'll talk just like this, between you and me. But out in front, Ryan Otten's in first place, Bashir Jadwat in second, Daniel Raceface.pro in third place, putting his foot down to the floor and closing the distance down. Nicholas Manuel has dropped off the train a little bit. He's trying to close down. You got Sanjan Pillay, Justin Lotus, Johan van der Merwe, Kieran Duplessis, Charles Darden, Daniel the Hitman de Villiers up into 10th place. Eric Kirstein, Jean Viviers, Ramon Ionka has got Ronaldo Boersma trying to chase him down, but take a look at Tini Nkube. What happened to Mr. Nkube? He has now got his arms out. Well, he's got his shoulders out and he's ready to take the fight in 15th place. This is a driver that battled at Kota, now coming back in with a proper fight.
Yeah, it's one of those cases, Stephen, you know, me and you have it as well. Certain tracks just don't suit us. I know Kota does not suit either me or you very well. Silverstone, different track, a lot different to Kota. Fast flowing track, a lot of high speed corners. Bushman into the pit, so he's decided to make his pit stop, not getting involved into any further battles for now. But look at Jadwat and Daniel Petro duking it out as they go through Maggots and Beckett's, and just behind them, lying and waiting, is Nicholas Manuel. So this is turning out to be a nice little battle, but in turn, Ryan Ottens has now opened up an almost 2-second gap in front of them because they are keeping each other busy.
It's absolutely incredible to see what happens when you get caught up in a race. Side by side, Bash stuck on the outside, having to try and bring the car back. Goes defensive. Daniel dives up on the inside. The Hybrid Academy driver, the new Hybrid Academy driver, going and taking the fight, and now has got the Project Vapor driver of Nicholas Manuel onto the toe. Second, third, and fourth, all within 0.5 of a second, and behind them, Sanjin Pillay has got Justin Lotus, Jan van der Merwe, Q Du Plessis, all chasing him down. So they just watching this battle and waiting for a mistake to come on. And with guys focusing on the battle, their tires getting worn out. This is going to be a proper race down to the wire. And I can tell you, our experienced drivers that are sitting down in the pits, yes, they're not able to make it out onto the track. Unfortunately, we've got 28 drivers versus the usual 30 plus drivers that we have on the circuit. Guys now watching the live stream, watching from the sidelines, talking to their friends, their teammates, and saying, right, let's get our elbows out here. This is round 3. We've got 8 rounds to make it work. Nicholas Manuel, though, opting to getting into the pits.
Maybe he felt like he was getting held up there, Stephen. You think?
Well, he closed down.
Losing time?
He closed down the distance, but he wasn't able to get the drive out. So maybe the undercut coming into play, he's going to have to get out before Leclerc-Besson. And one thing I do want to point out, and I know a lot of drivers are going to start talking about it, and that is track limits. This circuit and track limits go together like Paul Fenter and his courage juice drinks. And his wall, yes. Just ask the Formula V back in the 2000s. Oh, sorry, I wasn't meant to say that.
Did you know, seeing that Mr. Fenter is out on the chat, did you know there was a time when he was called Paul the Wall Fenter?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And did you know there was also a time back in the PlayStation days that I used to race against him on PlayStation? He was called the Rainmaster. And apparently it was not because he was good in the rain.
Interesting news. Couple of keen eyes going and pointing out that Daniel Petro, his livery is not the Hybrid Academy. It was synced. We synced it literally before we went live. Doesn't seem to have pulled through for some odd reason, but that is the Hybrid Academy Lamborghini ahead of Bashir Jadwat of the SRMC fighting it out. Sanjin Pillay is opening up the distance, but what happened to Justin Lotus? As he is in the weeds, he was going and tailing his teammate, Sanjin Pillay, just ahead of him. And what happened to Justin Lotus? Did he get onto the dirty stuff and swing the car around? Was it too much rotation? Did he climb on the anchors mid-corner? We're about to find out. Oh, just rotation. Oh, the Ferrari just getting out underneath him and unfortunately throwing him around. He's battling to get back, but those rear tires are going to be good as
They're not
shot.
going to be happy. Not going to be happy. And I think Justin Lotus just made another mistake. Sorry, I just caught it here on my right-hand screen. So he's not having a very happy time at this stage.
No, he's got to be very, very careful with this and now focus on the drive to get ahead of SESOs, because he is the last of everyone that needs to do the pit stop. First of everyone that's done the pit stops is Nicholas Manuel, out in 16th place, lying 8 seconds behind. So let's see how it's all going to work out and where they're going to get a little bit of a run. One driver I do want to talk about is Issam Domingo. Really quite enjoy the guy. Lovely chat to him prior to the season, and his sole goal is to get faster, better, and make it to the top. We saw at Kote had a little bit of a rough time, and properly doing some send moves that were quite spectacular how he managed to pull them off. But Tini Nkube does remember all the moves because he received one of the massive dives, and now is trying to figure out how to open up the spacing to Issam Domingo, the Project Vapor driver, battling it out with the VSR.
Yeah, I think he's very much looking forward to have a better race, but he, as you said, Stephen, he's got Tini Nkube for company, and you see Tini just covering that inside line every now and again, just showing that intention that he's not going to make life that easy, as we see the BMW follow a much more tighter line through that section. But at this stage, it does not look like he's really putting Nkube under that much pressure, or Nkube is just soaking up the pressure, and at this stage just saying, no, you need to try a little bit harder than that. I'm not going to give a position up that easily. You need to get a lot closer before you're going to impress.
Well, another one to go and talk about is Charles Darden of the Project Vapor, and we saw his teammate a little bit earlier, and he's having a bit of fun. He's got Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers, locked, loaded, and ready to pull the trigger right behind him. That Lamborghini looking very menacing in the black and yellow. It does remind me of more of a stealth bomber look. Now, we know that the Hitman got assassinated more than once previously. Now he's coming back with a new look and a new challenge to chase it down. Charles Darden, though, going and having a huge amount of fun, putting in a great bit of effort, and also sporting colours of a one-off Ferrari that was made in a Formula 1. It was a prototype, and as we see the likes of Daniel de Villiers giving him a quick flash saying, listen, I'm coming for you, buddy. You ain't going to run away just as yet. But Charles Darden sporting legendary colours of a one-off car that was built by Ferrari. It was a Formula 1, it was a test car. Never actually got to finish a race. And quite like it. I really like it. I like the bit of history coming out when the guys go and find stuff like this. And it's always interesting. Going back to George G. Max, he always used to talk about the amazing liveries that guys come up with, and that's what we've been seeing, especially with the introduction of custom liveries. Guys have been really pushing the boundaries of what they can do and busy showing off all the types of, well, creativity to it. You've got to also talk about the striking team colors that do come into play. Example, you know that's Hybrid Academy. The silver and blue has always stuck around. Then you've got Daniel Demartro at Petro. He's trying to, well, we'll have his colors to that silver and blue. You got Bashir
Just imagine
Jaguars.
it's silver and blue.
Yeah. The last time I saw Bash racing right up to the front in a proper champion, in the proper championship, he was actually in White Rabbit gaming colors. For anyone that used to take a look and see it, it was a white car, and you could actually see, if you zoomed into it, little white rabbits stamped everywhere. So, I mean, it would be nice to see those sort of colours coming back. Sanjay Pillay, he's out there. And then ZRC Scuderia also going and sporting a new livery for the McLaren as battling their way through. Gotta say, really like it. It's got the more comic book vibe coming into play. And especially here at Silverstone, guys are really trying to open it up a little bit with some changes to not only the cars, but their driving styles.
Yeah, but I must say, Stephen, I've got a soft spot for black type racing cars, and that livery on that Lambo, it's just striking, the livery of Daniel de Villiers. But you know, the quick shot there we had of one of the EG cars, and those white Ferraris that they're driving, those are also, you know, very striking liveries. It really stands out, the white and red and blue liveries.
That's got to point out a bit of fun out there. Do want to point out a lot of guys going and talking about the interesting choice of colors for the rims on Bashir Jadwat's car. To see, we actually got a yellow flag. That's Ramon Yonka. What on earth happened to you, buddy? The corners
lost it through the last corner.
That's
too early on the power, maybe.
Oh, was starting to slide way beforehand. There's the old pit lane. Try and keep it all together. This is the corner I am so cautious about, because because if you get on the power too
Easy
early,
on the power.
yeah, low traction
You
control.
go mowing.
Yeah, I think that's a combination of low traction control, high rotation, lots of power, and game over.
Too much horsepower.
Too much horsepower. But yeah, going back to Bashir Jadwat going and having a choice of green rims, did you know, and this is a did you know, back in the old Can-Am days in America, one of the chaparrals to go and show how much brake dust it was actually kicking up, they changed the one rim, the one rear right rim, to white compared to everyone else that was black. The reason is to see how much brake dust it was kicking up. With the amount of brake dust being kicked up, they can judge whether the aerodynamics were working on the vehicle, because in theory, the more aerodynamics that you have that can keep the power on, the less time you should be spending on the brakes. And less time on the brakes means less usage, ultimately cost cutting in caps. Save brakes, save a couple of bob for then going and putting more engine upgrades. How's that?
No, it's interesting, but it's also a case of we need to cut costs. We need to use the brakes a bit less. You
Yes.
want me to do what?
use the brakes less and bust the drivers for using the brakes. So a bit of knowledge getting chucked out there for the likes of having odd coloured rims coming into play. Who knows? We talked about a Farino that used to race last night. Let's talk about something. It's a bit fun. But here for the GT cars, the guys are having a huge amount of fun. Ryan Otten's leading out the field. Daniel Demartro Petra up into second place. Bashir Jadwat in third place, starting to lose a bit of pace though as he drops down. And now starting to fall in the clutches of Sanjit Pillay, 5 seconds behind. Jan van der Merwe also keeping very, very close at the moment. Interesting to see the McLarens running at the top, because generally they've been the cars to avoid. Lots of people saying that it's not the car to have. Others saying it's far more comfortable than what you think. They're running to that knife's edge, if we can talk it. We were talking a little bit earlier about GT4 cars. And you can go for the car that's BOP is absolutely amazing. This is the fastest car out there. How comfortable is it?
Warden taking a shortcut there.
Yeah, well, he's
straight gliding it through maggots and beckets.
Yep, just going and testing how comfortable the Ferrari is off-road. But yes, we talked about the guys having to pick the cars, and this was to the beginning of the season. You can have the fastest car, but can have the most weaknesses at the end of it. Will do well at certain places versus others. How comfortable is it over a duration of time? These are all factors coming in. A lot of people switching over to the likes of the Lamborghini and the Ferrari. The BMW is becoming less and less apparent. Not only because people are getting bored with the car, but people are wanting to feel that thrill of hanging on tooth and nail.
Well, let's quickly have a look back when the BMW was first launched. Every second, third car on the grid was a BMW. So we have a look at Eric Stein. They are in a nice little battle. Yeah, they're in a nice little battle here. But Stephen, and you mentioned getting bored. Me and you got bored with a BMW.
Yes.
After you listen to that straight six engine for long enough, you get bored.
What I also think, and what a lot of guys have been talking about, is you've got a very fine point where you actually can't feel when something goes wrong in the car. It's very comfortable, it's very forgiving, but the moment you've pushed it too far, you can't quite feel it. Versus your Ferraris, your Lamborghinis, where it will let you know if you've done something completely horrendous quite quickly. And also the one thing to bring up is the Mercedes had it as well. The Mercedes was really well, and they BOP'd it, and it sort of slipped down through the field. Talking about this, Nicholas Manuel, Eric Kirstein in this monstrous battle, but in doing so, they starting to lose time on the likes of Justin Lotus, Issam Domingo, Essie Estes, and on a track like this, I would rather want to be in open air.
Yeah, but it really does look like Manuel is trying his utmost to get past Kirstein there, even looking on the inside through Maggots and Beckett's, but again, it does not look like that pit stop worked all that well for Nicholas Manuel, because he's now finding himself in 16th position fighting Eric Kirstein that still needs to do his pit stop. So he's getting held up quite badly here, it seems, Steve.
Another interesting little move, Justin Lotus had Issam Domingo. Issam Domingo actually going and choosing to not put the fight up, allows Justin Lotus to get past him and then get back into the tow and pull himself along. A couple of drivers opting to do a little bit of a strategy to try and figure out what's going to work for them. Now, I've got a question for you, because you've raced with these guys. You've raced in pro. You've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and got lapped by the fastest of the fast in the country.
Just had to throw that in there, yeah.
I have to point it out because it's the fastest of the fast in the country, and they're in the top rankings in the world charts. But knowing who you're fighting, who's in the championship at round 3, do you think it's worth to take everyone on and take the fight to everyone on, like what we're seeing with Eric Kirstein and Nicholas Manuel at the moment? Or is it rather better to start looking at the 3 cars ahead of you in the championship versus 8 cars up ahead? Your thoughts onto this?
Eric Kirstein really covering that inside line on Nicholas Manuel.
Contact!
Manuel running wide.
Contact!
I don't think there was contact. I think Kirstein lost it. And Manuel had to avoid.
Let's take a look. Let's go to, I think that was a slight bit of contact. Let's go to our helicam. Tim in the helicopter. Don't worry, he's not afraid of heights. Heights are afraid of him. As we see Nicholas Manuel, Eric Kirstein, as you said, blocking up that inside line, ensuring that he can't go past, under braking, and he's keeping it together. No, there was a slight...
Sorry.
It just
My
looked...
mistake.
Yeah, Eric Kirstein was trying to handle a bit of understeer at that point, and trying to pull the car back. Nicholas Manuel just not having as much space as he needs. Unfortunately, had the slightest of corners to just tap the car and twist him around. So that, unfortunately, is put to bed with it. Maeth Musa, though, is a person that I do want to talk about, considering he got 3rd. Oh, contact again.
Kirstein.
Man, Eric Kirstein's in the wars here.
Yeah.
But Maeth Musa loses to Leclerc Basson, who goes and says, well, thank you very much. Maeth Musa was actually one of the quicker cars last week. And it seems like, unfortunately, Silverstone not being as kind as Kota, as he's down into 18th place. Do you want to bring up that we got SESAs up on the inside of Tini Akube, a little bit of close racing, a bit of pain sharing as they battle it out, and Justin Lotus just keeping a very close eye on the action at the moment. So that's something to also just bear in mind. Johan van der Merwe, he's all over the back of Sanjan Pillay, as Sanjan still trying to go and shake off that McLaren that's all over the back of him at this point. Not turning into an easy run, and the McLaren showing exactly what it can do. Now I wonder, has the McLaren got an upgrade, much like what we've seen in Formula 1? Because Johan van der Merwe is really taking the fight to the front end of the field from an early start.
Might also be a case that the McLaren is just working for him. I mean, we mentioned earlier on that some drivers say that the McLaren is a lot more comfortable than you think. Others don't like it at all. I don't know, maybe Van der Merwe took the time and put some development into the car, and he maybe found something in that car that others, I don't want to be harsh, but others didn't bother to look for.
So Ryan Otsenzo, let's talk about that. He's out in 1st place. He's keeping ahead of Daniel Dematros-Petro. He is in the same place where he started. Daniel started in 3rd, moved himself up into 2nd place. He's up 1 position. Bashir Jadwat starting to slip down, has lost 1 position. He's trying to keep the momentum up at this moment. as he slides his way through. Sanjin Pillay up 3 positions. He's got Jan van der Merwe, who's up 6 positions from where he started. Quinn Duplessis is up 2 positions. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers up 6 positions. Charles Darden up 2 positions. Jean Viviers up 9 positions. Ramona Yonka up 10 positions. He's one of our big gains. SES Days down 6 positions. Tinian Kube up 14 positions. Justin Lotus down 7 positions. Nicholas Manuel down 10 positions. Isam Domingo up 8 positions. Eric Kirstein back to where he started. Luku Basson down 5 positions. Mahath Musa down 4 positions. Ronaldo Boersma up 5 positions. Tianas Buerta up 5 positions. Hansi Myberg up 6 positions. Alan Patterson down 3 positions. He's got his teammate behind him, Darren Miller, down 2 positions. Kerry Duplessis down 7 positions. And unfortunately, Grant Sebastian still in the pits. And I think he has retired from the race. Do want to bring out, though, Isam Domingo stuck in a bit of a sandwich at the moment of everyone that has pitted. And he's still needing to get into the pits. Nicholas Manuel, I think, has lost too much time to be able to take the fight back up to the front. He's going to be concentrating on getting into that top 5. As we see Justin Lotus up on the inside. Oh! Tinian Kube getting a shoulder full of Ferrari under braking. He's able to keep it all together, but you can be sure it was one of these Alonso wagging the finger moments. That's for certain.
Yeah, and I think Jeff would have been proud.
The execution was good. The result not as grand as one would hope.
Do you think Jeff might, have some pointers that he can give on that one?
I think it was a 5.5 out of 10.
Moving on, shall we?
Yeah, it's turning into that bit.
That McLaren sliding through the last corner and Van der Merwe diving into the pits. It was a little bit of a hairy moment, or maybe it was just an entry into pits in style.
Well, I think it's one of these ones that deserves a take a look back and go in the helmet cam, and let's see if those arms got crossed. It was on to a great flyer, and I think started baiting the competition, turning it in, started understeering, getting onto the power, trying everything he can. Oh, yeah, got onto the power a little bit too early. The car snapping underneath him. He was able to reel it back right at the last. But we've seen more than once throughout the seasons that sometimes you may run in a world of hurt, but that does put him net first place currently as he tries to battle his way. As our thing's going to update, Nicholas Manuel would be just ahead of him. So Nicholas Manuel net first place. Jan van der Merwe is a possibility. Ryan Ottens is only 3 seconds ahead of this man, Daniel Demartros Pretro, along with Bashir Jadwat, Sanjin Pillay, Quinn Duplessis, Daniel de Villiers, Charles Darden, Jean Viviers, Ramona Yonka, Essie Estes, and Justin Lotus. Bear in mind, a entry to exit in the pits takes you roughly 27 seconds without stopping in the box. So, any of these drivers, wherever they are, need to have at least 28 seconds to be able to come in a position that's going to work for them. Isam Domingo, who is down in 14th position, will be suffering from this.
Yeah, I mean, you're running in 14th position. You've got Van der Merwe and Nicholas Manuel in front of you, 12th and 13th. They've already done their pit stops. And looking behind him, I mean, the likes of Basson and Musa and Boersma, Buerta, even in Kube, they're not that far behind. He's not going to get out in front of them should he do his pit stop. So having a look at Domingo making his way around the track, just discussing on pit stop strategies. He still needs to make his one pit stop, and let's see how this one is going to work out for him. It does seem like we did lose Steven. I don't know if Steven's still out there. Steven, can you still hear me? things have gone a bit silent on Steven's side. Okay. So.
And I'm back.
Oh, Domingo. Oh, you're back. Oh, you scared me. As I watched, you scared Domingo as well. He even ran wild.
I'm running to what Hybrid Academy used to have their team at 5 kVA. So, yeah, got to work with that. But
did you have to do a quick switch over?
Yeah, it's a bit of a switch over. Ryan Otten's out in first place. Daniel Demontre Petra up into second place. Bashir Jadwat seems to be falling down the order. His time, so, been verging on a 1:59. He's been getting thereabout of it. The last lap was a 1:58.937. So starting to slip down the time. I do want to point out though, first, second, and third are running 1:58. Fourth place is running 2 minutes and 4. So if you want to talk about guys really trying to push the boundaries, yeah, this is what it is. Hugh Duplessis, though, not to be forgotten, 1:59.8 on his last lap as he makes his way through. So a couple of 59s, 58s down through the field that may become a threat. Fastest lap is set by Ryan Ottens, though, a 1:58.4. Now, Ryan Ottens has got everything to lose in these races because he is the defending champion of the Sprint Series. After his fantastic result in Season 9, everyone else, though, has everything to gain. And Ryan Ottens has got to be very careful because he's got some young Hybrid Academy blood going after him and wanting to take that crown away. Not to take away the fact that we do have drivers right through the field that are looking to really step things up a little bit. A little bit further down though, 20th, 21st, Alan Patterson, Hansi Myburg. Alan managing to get on the inside of Hansi and get on the throttle. And two guys with a bit of history to the rest of the world of Raceface as Darren Miller gets past. He's just following Alan Patterson through. Hansi Myburg losing a bit of time. Hansi helping to put all our servers up, so a big thank you to him. And Alan Patterson, our former commentator.
Yeah, Alan's going to do a little bit of racing, and Alan has actually been doing really well since he stepped back behind the steering wheel. So he's definitely become a lot quicker than me, because there was a time back in the day about 2-3 years ago when me and Alan, we used to do some very close racing together out on track.
Also, to bring up the fact of getting new drivers like Daniel the Hitman de Villiers up in 6th place does add to the PWSR team. These are all different things. SM Domingo in the pits though, which means 1st to 11th are still needing to get into the box. Justin Lotus, caught behind SES days, chasing down his teammate, has got Nicholas Manuel right behind him. So do you think there's going to be a lot of talking of how can they work out to get past one another, or what do they need to do for their pit stops, considering we've only got 19 minutes left?
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of those moves, even with Justin Lotus. He still needs to make his pit stop. Nicholas Manuel already did his pit stop, and he's not too far behind. So who got into the pits?
SES days got into the pits, and that's allowed Justin Lotus to open up a gap with Nicholas Manuel still.
I got confused by all the screens.
Yeah, that's it. So SE pulling into the pits, Nicholas Manuel getting released, and now has to deal with Justin Lotus that is just ahead of him. And while we've actually got a little bit of downtime, for anyone that doesn't know, on the 14th, which was Monday, it was Janneman's birthday. So happy birthday, Janneman, or past birthday. So for everyone there, put a happy birthday in the comments. If you Paul Fenter, have another glass.
Yeah, I think then if I follow Paul's advice, things are going to get very interesting in the commentary box very quickly as we have a look at Justin Lotus, Nicholas Manuel. Stephen, I would say things are not working out for Nicholas Manuel after he did his pit stop. I don't know if he felt like he was being held up or it was his strategy to do that pit stop, but since he got out, it feels like he's been stuck behind cars that still need to make their pit stops.
I think the time that cost him is the battle with Eric Kirstein. Now, Eric Kirstein was maintaining his position. They were fighting for position. There is no reason to jump out the way and let the guys go. But Nicholas Manuel was really chomping at the bit to try and get past, which says a lot, because now it's cost him a fair amount of time. He's just sitting out of the top 10 after having a phenomenal run in qualifying, now having to really figure out what's going to work for him on his way back up to the top. Justin Lotus, on the other hand, is not going to make it easy for him, because Justin Lotus, part of Hybrid Academy 5K V8, I've got it outside, it's currently working, they're looking to also increase their points in the championship, because we got to talk about a team championship along with a driver championship. So there's two championships that are running side by side. So you got to think of the bigger picture when you're in a team versus when you're racing by yourself. That does make it rather interesting, and sometimes you got to bite the bullet.
Yeah, it does. But just quickly hopping back to a question you actually asked me earlier on regarding, are you fighting the guy behind you or in front of you, or do you know you're racing? But it's just one of those cases, like, these drivers have been racing against each other, some of them for a couple of seasons now. So even though it's still early on in this season, and yes, there are new drivers around, you kind of know who you're racing against, not only on track but in the championship as well. So you've kind of already figured out that should a driver come up behind you, it's a case of, it's not worth my while fighting, because I know he is a quicker driver. Might as well let him go and focus on my race and the drivers that I'm fighting. So if that makes sense, and I know maybe so a couple of guys are going to say, but you're not a real racing driver when you say that.
There's always a little bit of a bigger picture to it, and just taking a look, Nicholas Manuel actually outbroke himself into the corner and has dropped back 1.3 seconds off Justin Lotus. That's enough to just break the toe, and now he has to try and work the way back. Do you think that as a driver, Nicholas Manuel is starting to feel that pressure building in?
Yeah, Lotus jumped into the pits. That is released Nicholas Manuel from behind him, but just in front of him is Romano Jonker, as we see Romano Jonker going through the corner there. So again, he's coming up to a car that still needs to make his pit stop.
So as much as it helped him to go for that early pit stop, he's now chasing down cars that still need to pit, and at the moment, little mistakes starting to come in. Braking a fraction too late for a corner, runs out wide, and you take the impact to that. So even though Nicholas Manuel is running a good, consistent 159.8, 159.9 lap times, which is quicker than the cars ahead of him, like Romano Jonker, Jean Viviers, and Charles Darden, the main thing is he has to get close enough to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing, and he needs to dispatch of the cars in front of him very quickly. The big problem that he's got is the cars in front of him aren't exactly slow drivers, so the pace difference is very little, if anything, as we see him tuck right up under that rear wing of Romano Jonker, following him through. He's going to try and get past through this next section. Let's see, going around the outside, Romano Jonker covering that inside line. So Romano Jonker putting up a fair bit of a
little bit of a bump,
bit of contact,
little bit of a
cost
bump.
Nicholas Manuel, yeah, more than it did Romano Jonker.
Yeah, that little bit of bump into the rear is just enough to rubber band himself all the way back, and that's allowed Romano Jonker to open up the distance. Nicholas Manuel, though, is starting to go and get frustrated. You can see the driving's becoming a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, you need to remember that, Romano Jonker, also being part of the hybrid team, he's actually, in a way, helping out his teammates of Brian Ottens and Daniel the Motos Pretro out in front, even Sanjan Pillay.
with Nicholas Manuel being part of the Project Vapor team, now trying to figure out what he can do, tucking in the toe and going and giving everything. Oh, Charles Darden though.
Oopsie.
That's
a second-hand Ferrari.
That's a very broken Ferrari, and let's see if we can try and figure out what happened to that car. So let's jump on board with the Ferrari as he gets the power down, really doing everything he can to try and travel his way through. Now into Maggots and Becker. It's very difficult. Down into fourth gear. No, he keeps it in fifth. Oh, way too fast on entry, and unfortunately just not able to slow the car down sufficiently before that wall. And well, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how he's trying to keep it straight,
wow.
Look at his hands. He can't physically turn that car.
How's he going to turn it right?
He has to slam on the anchors as we see Isam Domingo trying to go around. But that, we talk about damage models being hurting you, but now he's got a whole track to try and pull that back to the pits without towing. If you want to talk about a very long drive, well, we're about to see it.
Yeah. And now we've got a little bit of action from Kieran Du Plessis and Sanjan Pillay. So the two hybrid drivers are deciding to duke it out a little bit. Both of them still need to do their pit stop, so this is a fair race to the end. Both drivers still needing to pit. So Sanjan Pillay and Kieran Du Plessis deciding to have a little bit of a battle out on track as they follow. Oh, that is close through Maggots and Beckett. It's extremely close racing to follow Maggots and Beckett, or follow through Maggots and Beckett as close as they do.
I just want to also point out that the likes of Kieran, who is dealing with that aero wash getting swept over the car. He's tucked in the slipstream as well, which means he hasn't got as much pressure on the nose, which he needs to get it to turn in, and dealing with it as he tries to line up side by side. Late on the brakes, Sanjan saying, listen, I'm going to let you go. Yeah, let's think about this a little bit. But Kieran really giving it everything he could to try and go for it. And Sanjan Pillay, well, he's going to return the favor, tucking into the toe, looks to the outside. Kieran actually giving a quick left-right to just try and keep himself together. But interesting to see the difference of what those cars look like. Look at Kieran's rear on that Ferrari. It slides quite a bit, which tells me he likes something that's a bit more loose, while Sanjan Pillay is going for something a little bit more stable. I mean, here's Kieran's car. Watch as he gets into this long left-hander. Flat on the gas, keeping the power going. He's going to have to try and get it all in. You can see a little bit of a twitch into the corner and slide out a little bit where the understeer comes in of Sanjan Pillay, which has got a bit more of a stable car, but experiencing heavy understeer as the race goes on. With under 10 minutes to go, 9 minutes in, 11 seconds left of the race, there is no room for error for any of these drivers. But Ryan Alton's out in first place, carving his way through the traffic. He's got Hansi Myberg ahead of him. Then you have got Daniel Demetrios Petro chasing him down in second place. Bashir Jadwat, he's trying to get a little bit more of a run. He looks like they've gotten past the likes of the PWSR, Daniel and De Villiers' car. Kieran Du Plessis, he's out in fourth. Fifth is Sanjan Pillay. Daniel the Hitman De Villiers, so it wasn't Daniel that they got past. Do apologize. It might have been, yeah, that might have been Eric Kirstein. Daniel De Villiers in sixth place. Jean Viviers in seventh. Eighth is Nicholas Manuel. Ramona Yonka in ninth. 10th is Johan van der Merwe. Followed by Leclerc Besson, Mahaith Musa, Ronaldo Boersma, Essie Estes, tucked up behind him. Remember, Essie got thrown right down the order at the start. He's now recovered into 14th position, which is no easy feat to do, especially here in the pro division of the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series.
Yeah, very good comeback drive from SES Racing. He's at this stage really duking it out. But you know, he's got Justin Lotus for company right behind him. But Boersma out in front, will he be able to catch him and make up another one or two positions that way? But I don't know, Stephen, it's going to be difficult. Justin Lotus really tucking in behind that rear wing in slipstream. Let's see, Essie covering the middle of the track at this stage, so pulling a bit of a move. Your move, are you going to go outside or inside? It's your choice, but I'm not going to leave you that much room as we...
Justin Lotus with a slide.
Well, that's it was majestic, but it's Huntsy.
We understand
that BMW looks a bit broken.
Yeah, we understand there's a pretty picture. Wheel on the dirt, comes across. Oh, big thump. Broken, and everyone gets a canvas shot.
Open.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's a pity.
That he tries to get it going, but like many others, they're going to have severe damage. I think he actually opted in for a tow back to the pits instead of doing the Charles Darden move of dragging it. No, he did drag it back. There's a fair amount of damage to the car, but he dragged it back into the pits. And with 6 minutes left of the race, I don't think he's going to be going for any more positions for this. He's just going to try and get that car out and going. Battling to get it in the box. And that tells you because he actually can't see anything out the front windscreen. SESAs, he's all over the back of Ronaldo Boersma as they go and give it everything it got. But I do want to go and point out Ryan Ottens, Daniel Demetrius-Petro, Bashir Jadwat, Kewin Duplessis, Sanjan Pillay, Daniel the Hitman de Villiers, and Jean Viviers, along with Ramona Yonka, are still needing to get into the pits, and we've now just headed into the 5 minutes and 50 seconds mark. We saw the move at COTA, Circuit of Americas, being the remaining 3 seconds before cars got it into the pits. Are they going to try and replicate it here at Silverstone? Based on my experience, not a really good one.
Are we going to play how close can we cut it as we see Bashir Jadwat jumping into the pit? So he's decided, he's had enough. He's going to do his pit stop, get it out the way, not trying to play how close we can cut it.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get the undercut here to try and get it going out to the front. I do want to point out, though, as sim racers, as drivers, as anyone that owns a car, we all have that I know my car moment. The problem is the moment when you didn't quite know your car, and that is the one that always bites you in the backside. So the guys who really fuel this to the liter, which we do know, extensive testing behind the scenes, guys work out of what do they need to do. Daniel de Villiers gets it sideways, trying to pull himself back. He loses it. He's trying to get himself going. Here comes Bash, though. Jadwat closing down the distance, is right on the back of him, and Daniel de Villiers
doesn't have the drive.
No, he's done and dusted. But remember, Daniel still needs to pit, so Bash has scored a position. He's managed to undercut Daniel de Villiers and Jean Viviers at this point. So he is on a climb to keep the power on, and I know Daniel's going to be kind of kicking himself a little bit there, dropping a wheel on the dirt, but it does happen, especially when you're risking the limits like what these drivers are doing every single lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And with only less than 4 minutes to go, Stephen, this race is actually very far from over as we have a look at Le Plasson now in 10th position. So he's done, he's still, oh sorry, got a bit confused there. He's fighting it out with Musa behind him. So this is now a sprint, the last 3 minutes of the race essentially, Stephen. This is now a sprint to the end. These guys are going to fight it out. They're going to try and get that last position before the checkered flag falls. So we predicted it. There's battles up and down the field, and anything can still happen in the remaining 3 minutes of this race.
And as we know, from first to 32nd gets points, but realistically, you want to maximize the points to ensure that come the end of the season, that 1 or 2 points, like what we had at the last season of the Grid Championship, Season 3, where we were sitting down working out what position the drivers needed to be in to ensure they get second place in the championship, and it was separated by literally 2 points, which came down to the wire. you would prefer to score points early on that you don't run into moments like that. And Ryan Ottens knows it very best because he needs to defend his crown. A lot of the other drivers are also keeping up the fight. I do want to point out, though, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Hybrid Academy, Hybrid Academy, Hybrid Academy, Hybrid Academy,
Hybrid Academy,
PWSR, and Hybrid Academy and EG Evolved. And I stand to be mistaken here, and I may be talking out of turn. Is the engineers back at Hybrid Academy really thinking of the really late moves, which we saw Genesis actually do last season to get the jump on them? I'm talking, I could be out of turn here, but it looks a bit mirrored.
Where they go for the latest pit stops possible. Well, they still need to pit. There's 1 minute 30 seconds left to this race, so they need to make it.
Ryan's in the pits. Daniel's in the pits. And
may I remind, there's only 1.6 seconds between the two of them before they did this pit stop. So who will get out of that pits first?
I want to also point out Bash has got a little bit of drive. He's catching up. But I did hear that leader was on the final lap, which means the pit lane was closed.
No, they're out in formation with Ryan Ottens out in front, so Daniel Demott just following him out of the pits. So
they managed to get in for the pit stop before the pit window closed. But
it doesn't look like there is a pit window.
That's what I'm looking at as well. But just Bashir Jadwat is up into 3rd place, trying to undercut. So he's jumped up 2 positions over Nicholas Manuel and Kieran Duplessis. Sanjan Pillay also trying to get back out of the pits. He's got Daniel De Villiers that's still weighing in pits. So right at the last, they were able to get those cars in. And if you want to talk about running it very, very fine, well, Ryan Ottens is one of the drivers that's ran it really to the end, and makes you wonder if he was half a second slower, would he have been that lucky? And drive-through penalty for Jean Viviers right at the end. Oh man, exiting the pits.
That's sad. That's going to give you a dreaded penalty at the end of the race, because there's no time left to do that drive through. The race is essentially over. But Stephen, one thing I want to point out,
I think it's 180 seconds, but I stand to be corrected.
120 or 180. Ryan Ottens out in 1st place, followed by Daniel Tomatos Preto, 0.9 of a second behind. This hasn't exactly been the easiest of races for Ryan Ottens. He has not run away with it. Daniel is slowly but surely closing that gap down to him race by race. So I think before the end of the season, that Lamborghini is going to try and get out in front of that Ferrari, as we see Ryan Ottens takes the checkered flag, followed by Daniel Demott Petro. A lot closer drive than what we see at Kota. Cross the line, but Bashir Jadwat in 3rd place. Stephen, he really made up through the latter parts of the race.
Yeah, Nicholas Manuel taking 4th place, 5th going to Jan van der Merwe. Kieran Duplessis taking 6th, 7th going to Sanjan Pillay. Leclerc Basson in 8th place, 9th is Mahath Musa. Daniel, the Hitman De Villiers in 10th, Ronaldo Boersma in 11th, 12th, Justin Lotus. SES Days in 13th place. He's still putting up a monster of a drive right behind Justin Lotus. Looks up on the inside, and there is Boersma just ahead of him. Can he get the drive though? 1 corner to go. It's going to be a bit of a tight one between the 3. Boersma going and locking down that inside line. He gets ahead of running to the line, but Essie Esterhays getting ahead of Justin Lotus at the line. Did Justin Lotus come off the gas a fraction too early? Looking at it, it was only
It shows Lotus 11th, Esterhays in 12th, 0.1 of a second.
Yeah, it looks like I think my timing system's a bit out. ACS days. Managing to get to it. Viviers, though, hard goes out to the man. 30 seconds
30 seconds.
added onto his time. You can see he did that drive through, but to no avail. He was in the shot for a top 10, and unfortunately, it was not to be this evening. Here at Silverstone, round 3 has been an interesting one right the way through. We saw guys battling their way up and down through the field. Silverstone doing what it does best, taking things, flipping on its head, and really bringing out the best of the teams and drivers once again. And I've got to say, really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen for the GT3 Sprint Series and what's to come, as it does look like the gaps are starting to get smaller and smaller, and from drivers like Bashir Jadwat, who originally last season was a little bit further down through the field, now coming back with a bit of a fight. And you've got others like Daniel Demetrius-Petro, who's looking to take the crown off his fellow teammate, Ryan Ottens.
Absolutely, that gap between Daniel and Ryan, it's slowly but surely closing up and becoming smaller and smaller. And I've got to predict that before the end of this season, we're going to see Daniel fighting it out with Ryan Ottens properly.
It's absolutely incredible stuff, and while we're busy chatting about it, let's put a bit of highlights on to just relive some of the action with this evening of the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series. And definitely was a sprint, not only here in the commentary box, but out on the circuit as well. Lots of drivers having to really push the boundaries, and everyone fighting for their piece of tar on the circuit. And with 28 cars making it to the track instead of the usual 30 plus, the action was still fast and fierce out there for every single one of the drivers, and all of them taking away some very valuable information. But not only to that, we've also got the guys in the stands that were going and chatting and going and finding out a bit of information of what to do come tomorrow evening for the Grid Championship. And a big thank you to all the drivers. We had Unrik going and saying, how's it, guys? We've got AJ de Kock, we've got Andres Radio, and so much more. Christian Deploy, Paul Fenter, Bago, Daniel Rowe, Tariq Adam, everyone jumping in to be a part of it and getting to get a bit of insight of the racing that's going ahead with here at Silverstone, and makes you wonder what's going to be the plan, and can the last minute pit stops continue to work? Or is it just running to that knife's edge a little bit too close for all the drivers?
We'll have to see, Stephen. Tomorrow night, obviously a totally different race, different drivers on the track as well. A lot longer race. I mean, it's essentially half an hour longer than tonight's race. And as you said, is Hybrid starting to, figure out a different strategy? And will they implement that tomorrow evening? And that remains to be seen as the rest of the drivers from, the other teams take the track. And really looking forward to a close race. I think it's going to be a close fought battle for the front again between the hybrids and the Genesis cars. And I think we're reaching a point where anything can happen.
Yeah, not to take away from the likes of Bashir Jadwat and the rest of his team, and also to like the EG Evolve teams and Project Vapor, who've been really stepping up the game as well. So a lot of teams really pushing the boundaries of what they can do, drivers really trying to get out the box, and it's absolutely phenomenal to see that every time they hit the circuit, there's always a story to tell and ways to move forward. We did see our fair amount of dinged cars, if I can put it that way, that had to try and limp their way back to the pits, and around this circuit is incredibly difficult. My heart goes out to them, but we also saw how unforgiving the Queen's favorite circuit is to drivers if you don't respect the rules.
No, absolutely. And as you mentioned, we also saw one or more than one car going off through Maggots and Beckett's, getting it wrong. Just getting that entry into that section of corners wrong, it tends to become a very long accident after that, and it's one of those never-ending accidents that you tend up having. Silverstone is a very unforgiving circuit, and mistakes are punished because it is such a high-speed flowing circuit that you tend to have accidents at quite a high speed as you go through the corners. So that tends to worsen some of the impacts a little bit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at what's coming up this week, though. As tomorrow we head out to Silverstone once again for the Grid Championship Season 4, brought to you by Metal State and Raceface. Good to see Metal State jumping back on board to go and continue the championship 1 week later than what we planned. It's a round 2, not a round 3. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what the drivers will be able to do as we head to Silverstone for the Grid Championship tomorrow evening, same time. So make sure that you are here to join in all the action for an hour and 20 minutes of pure sprint racing with 2 mandatory pit stops, so the guys are going to have to figure out what to do. That being said, though, on the 29th of August, head over to the TCR Season 2, brought to you by Raceface, as we head over to Cameron de Bastel's favourite circuit, Alton Park. Do
you think he'll join us?
I think, you know what? I challenge him to do so. A TCR car, front-wheel drive, Alton Park. What could go wrong? No, our driver's looking to really have a huge amount of fun out there. And considering the racing that we saw at Laguna Seca and how close things were, I'm really looking forward to see the guys stepping it up as they head closer to the end of their championship for the Raceface TCR on the 29th of August for round number 3. That to mention, we do have on the 19th of August, our Automobilista 2 at Silverstone, this very track you watched. They're going to be driving around in the Formula 1s with the new models been made for Automobilista 2. Lots of fun to be had. So go join in all the action at Automobilista 2 and also go and tune into the live stream. Why not? He's actually quite great. You'll really, really love it. Tell them that Stephen at the Element sent you. It's always good to go and support up-and-coming new voices. I think we've got to bring him on for a recap or even just for one of our races.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I just want to know, have you had any feedback that does he struggle also as much with Tim as we do?
Yes.
Tim can be, quite...
Tim is Tim. Tim is life. Tim is a Venus flytrap under all the overalls. How's that for a bit of knowledge? Moving on, though, we do have round 5 of our Raceface F1 2023 heading to Red Bull Ring on the 22nd of August, and go and tune in for that because it's going to be a lot of fun. Red Bull Ring, one of my personal favorite circuits, and especially with a single-seater, it turns out to be a huge amount of fun. Hopefully, no one's going and popping the smoke and you can't see through the corners. We know there's a lot of McLaren lovers that like to pop the orange smoke, especially at Red Bull Ring. It's good to see Lando Norris getting a bit of love out there.
Do you think it's for Lando Norris?
It's for McLaren. Maybe it's Oscar Piastri. But go and take a look at our Raceface F1 2023 Round 5 on the 22nd of August. And then catch up with us here at the GT3 Sprint Series Season 10 Round 4 as we head to Watkins Glen. Yes, we're going bowling at Watkins Glen for all the fun. And it's not to be missed. It's going to be an incredible one. And you want to go and see what's happening out there at Watkins. Because last time it provided a bit of fun. And also, to round it off, we do have on the 22nd of August, Round 2, Laguna Seca in the Formula 4s for the Raceface F4 Championship. These are the cars that are licensed by the FIA, going and having a bit of fun out there. The drivers having a bit of fun with to and fro. Yanaman, you have been driving these cars also around now Laguna Seca in an open wheel. Well, far better than a GT3, hands down.
I must say, Stephen, it's a very different car to drive than a GT3 car. But both me and you have done a fair bit of racing in these Formula 4 cars, and it's quite a fun car to drive. It's not as quick as some of the cars out there. They don't have the biggest of engines now, do they? So but it's a momentum car. You need to keep it going to get the quick lap times out of it.
It's absolutely incredible. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us this evening, especially here out on a Wednesday for the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series. And it's absolutely amazing to get your guys' feedback. Any suggestions, go and send it out on Discord. And go and take a look at the Raceface Discord. It's always full of lots of fun. Guys getting interesting topics, interesting chats. And if you're just a fan of being a petrol head, well, it's a place to be. Also, keep an eye out on all our social media, out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more for all the upcoming action of what's happening here at Raceface. Also, keep an eye on the recap that also comes out for everyone to go and see. The 20-minute recap catches you up on all the racing you see during the course of the week, brought to you by Janneman and myself. But Janneman, ultimately, night's done and dusted. We're done and dusted for this evening. I've got to say, a bit of homework to do going into tomorrow for the Grid Championship here at Silverstone. I'm really looking forward to it. I know you are. Any closing words from your side?
Well, Stephen, you said it. Really looking forward to tomorrow night's race. I think anything can happen. You know, there's more than a handful of drivers that can fight their way to the front and take that first place. But what's going to happen tomorrow evening, I think we'll have to wait and see.
So we're going to take the route of a certain microphone, which gave a bit of an issue, and we're going to leave at the most opportune moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from the world's slowest alien, who, I've got to say, one of the professionals, and good luck to Janneman Racing a little bit later on in representing the flag. But from myself, from the world's fastest back marker, Stephen Koenig, we'd like to say thank you very much. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and also let us know whether you like it. Thumbs up or thumbs down. We always enjoy the feedback. We always go take a look at it, and always take a look at the comments. So just leave a comment there, whether you it's an emoji as well. It's always good to see you guys giving a bit of feedback, and it always helps for the channel here at Raceface on our charge to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, heading into Christmas, because that's what we want to see. So close. So close. 926 at the moment. We're nearly there. But we'll see you next time. Same place. Here at Raceface. Good night, everybody.